Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, alias Elmencho. He is the leader and founder of Jalisco Cartel New Generation, CJNG. Elmencho is the leader of one of Mexico's most brutal, fearless, and terrifying cartels. In the process, he has become one of Mexico's most wanted. Both the Mexican and US governments have failed to track him down, even with millions of dollars in rewards hanging over his head. Born on July 17, 1966, Elmencho is from the small farming city of Aguililla in the western state of Michoacan. According to an April 2015 press release from the US Treasury Department, he has been significantly involved in drug trafficking activities since the 1990s. In 1994, the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of California sentenced him to 3 years in prison for conspiracy to distribute heroin. Following his release, he returned to Mexico, where he served as a police officer in Cabo Corrientes and Tomatlan in the state of Jalisco. In time, however, he would leave the police to continue his drug trafficking activities and join the Mencho Cartel. Court and prison records show that he sneaked into the U.S. at least 3 times and was reportedly deported. Around age 19, Elmencho, his brother, and other friends and family lived in San Francisco Bay Area, so he used it as a home base while he tried to build a drug trafficking business. San Francisco police caught him trying to sell a meager street-level seized stash of crystal meth in 1986. He was deported to Mexico. Within months, he came back to the US and ended up back in San Francisco jail in 1989. Then he was deported a second time months later. Back in the US a third time, he got in much bigger trouble. Elmencho and his older brother, Abraham, sold heroin for $9,500 to 2 undercover police officers at the Imperial Bar in San Francisco in 1992. Both ended up in a federal prison, where Elmencho served more than 4 years before he was deported again. After first working in the assassin network that protected Armando Valencia Cornelio, alias El Maradona, Elmencho went to join the Mencho Cartel bloc, allied with the Sinaloa Cartel. This group moved drugs, managed finances, and acted as enforcers for the Sinaloa Cartel in the states of Jalisco and Colima. However, by 2010, following the death of Nacho Coronel and the capture of the Mencho Cartel leader Oscar Orlando Nava Valencia, alias El Lobo, the Mencho Cartel had split into 2 factions, Los Torcidos and La Resistencia. These 2 divisions engaged in a battle for control over drug trafficking in Jalisco, with Los Torcidos evolving into the present-day CJNG with Elmencho as their leader. Under Elmencho, the CJNG began expanding and consolidating its control over drug trafficking in Jalisco and surrounding states, taking on rival cartels the Zetas and Knights Templar. In August 2012, there was a big war between the Mexican security forces and the CJNG in Guadalajara. The leader of CJNG, Elmencho, was thought to have been captured, but he actually got away. The CJNG didn't want the police to catch him, so they made roadblocks and set fire to cars on key roads to slow the police operation down. This gave the CJNG members time to run away, and Elmencho escaped the operation. Despite the CJNG's increased strength and aggressive and violent tactics, resulting in increased attention and pressure from the security forces, Elmencho continued to elude authorities. As the head of CJNG, Elmencho directs the group's drug trafficking operations through the states of Jalisco, Colima, Guanajuato, where the cartel is a major player in the methamphetamine trade.
Earlier this year, Operation Python resulted in the arrest of more than 600 cartel members in the United States. Authorities say the power and influence of one particular cartel is spreading far beyond the U.S.-Mexico border.
Over the past several decades, Mexican drug cartels have been expanding their power south of the border, often with deadly consequences. Last year, suspected cartel assassins targeted a group of American Mormons in Mexico. 9 members of the group were slaughtered. Their families recently filed a federal lawsuit in Phoenix, naming the Juarez cartel as defendants. Now, a new and even more dangerous player has entered the scene, El Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, or CJNG.
When they come into an area, they really come in really hard and heavy, meaning they will go in and start on a killing spree.
Polo Ruiz, Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration in Arizona, says the CJNG is ruthless in their quest for money and power. They now control 24 of Mexico's 32 states.
El Mencho is also thought to have ordered several assassinations of Mexican politicians. In March 2013, a suspect in the murder of Jalisco's tourism secretary Jesus Galileo Alvarez said El Mencho had authorized the hit based on the suspicion that the official was working for the Knights Templar. The CJNG is also believed to be behind the September 2014 assassination of Congressman Gabriel Gomez Miquel. While the motive was unclear, Miquel was the former mayor of El Grulo, a CJNG stronghold in Jalisco state where El Mencho reportedly moves around freely. The CJNG cartel is blamed for frequent attacks on police, including the October 14th ambush and massacre of 13 officers in Michoacan. And with his key rival, Sinaloa cartel leader Joaquin El Chapo Guzman finally sentenced this summer to life in prison, more attention turns to El Mencho. Gunmen opened fire on police, killing 13 officers in an ambush in the community of Aguilera, in the Mexican state of Michoacan. On October 14, 2019, cartel members also torched at least 2 patrol cars in the ensuing chaos and left signs with threatening messages. The CJNG has established a presence in 28 Mexican states, including Mexico City, with its base of operation in Jalisco and Colima. The cartel uses specific routes to move drugs, importing cocaine from Colombia and fentanyl from China through the port of Manzanillo in Colima. He has contacts in Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and throughout Central America and the United States. El Mencho reportedly has his personal base of operations around the municipality of El Grulo and other remote parts of Jalisco. Given that he has been off the radar for years, it is unknown to what extent he maintains direct control over CJNG operations across Mexico, although his name and photograph are frequently used by CJNG members nationwide. His lack of personal appearances has also led to increasing rumors that he may have died. In February 2022, reports in the Mexican press suggested El Mencho had been killed in a shootout between the CJNG and some rivals. While there has been no evidence about this theory, it is known El Mencho has had health problems. In July 2020, he reportedly built a medical facility in rural Jalisco where he could be treated for a long-term kidney problem. Another rumor, which enemies of the CJNG have stated, that El Mencho had died of kidney failure at a hospital in Guadalajara. Uncertainty about his health status has begun to affect the group. The Mezcales, a splinter faction of the CJNG in Colima, publicly entered their allegiance to the larger cartel in early 2022, claiming that El Mencho had died. The Mexican government has investigated these claims but has not found compelling information either way. The CJNG has become Mexico's most high-profile criminal group, taking over territory and numerous criminal economies, including the trafficking of cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, and fentanyl.
This exclusive video taken from deep inside Mexico interior reveals a massive illicit narcotics lab hidden deep in the jungle, with raw materials imported from China through seaports controlled by the cartels. Members of the organization manufacture deadly drugs, including methamphetamine and fentanyl, all bound for the U.S. and beyond.
They will mass flood these substances into the United States. With that, the violence will bleed over.
It also has strong revenue from extortion, avocado production, cigarette trafficking, and human smuggling. One key to El Mencho's success is his discipline. He doesn't do drugs or drink alcohol to avoid foolish mistakes made by other cartel leaders. He exercises daily, staying in fugitive fighting shape that enabled him to avoid capture by staying on the run for days in rugged mountains. He's also rarely seen, staying in remote compounds that make it harder for police to breach. He spends time on ranches, riding horses, racing motorbikes. He uses extreme violence, acid baths, decapitations, and even cannibalism to inspire fear and compliance. His cartel members post many of these gruesome deaths on social media.
These individuals are individuals that, quote unquote, they call them sicarios, trained assassins.
This includes videos of torture and murder posted on YouTube, threats broadcast on Twitter and Facebook, and even images of bodies hanging from bridges on Pinterest.
This recent video posted on social media shows CJNG members showing off a convoy of heavily armored military vehicles.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We always expect that we could get an overflow of cartel violence from Mexico. I will say that in the last 20 years it has declined and decreased in Arizona. Cartel violence has, largely due to the cooperative effort of state, local, federal officers in working drug enforcement.
Authorities on this side of the border say staying one step ahead of the cartel is job one, and everyone has a role.
Please, if you see something, say something, advise the local authorities, and we're still continuing our battle here.